Carl here from Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short, and it's taking the nostalgia goggles off, reliving childhood horror, Halloween 2024 content. Of course, this is my 31 films from my childhood that left indelible marks on my psyche to some degree, and I'm now reflecting upon that, what it was as a child that scared me, or caused issues for me, or just made sure this film was memorable. And what I think now, whether or not it holds up, whether or not I still feel the same, and yeah, just kind of choosing a film at random from my head and talking about it in these videos. So, done a few up to this point, and if I said to you beforehand, there'll be a Stephen King adaptation entry in this list, would you have been able to guess which one it was, based off, you know, the sort of era of films you're talking about between early 80s to the late 90s, that kind of period of my sort of childhood / in the teenage years. Chances are, if you knew your adaptions, the sort of stuff that was coming out in the early 90s and late 80s, that kind of thing, you might have been able to identify one or two that could have made the list. And I suspect many would have gone, actually, yeah, this one, particularly when I say what it is, makes a lot of sense. And of course, you've seen the title, Pet Sematary, the adaptation of that story. Yeah, we all know why. We all know why this is on this list. Even now, now I can deal with her because I know the actor behind the outfit, the costume, and all that. But it is still one of the most uncomfortable sequences and scenes ever. It's not when it's not at the end, obviously, where she kind of runs up to the cameras and I'll break your back and all that. As a child, that definitely had an effect on me. But as an adult now, I think it's really cheesy and stupid. It's the suffering beforehand and telling her that story. That poor girl. Obviously, if you're wondering what the hell I'm talking about, say you don't know the film, I'm talking about the character of Zelda, which is the sister of the main lead, female lead in the movie. And she tells a story how basically she suffered from some debilitating disease that was twisting her spine, and her parents kind of locked her up in the attic because they were ashamed of her, and she was forced to take care of her, and it was just horrifying. And it is a horrifying scenario. It's almost arguable to say it's at total odds with what the rest of the film is kind of about, but that's Pet Sematary for you. It's all over the place. But god damn it, it's Zelda. It's Zelda alone that this made this movie what it is for me, why it's so stuck, and why when I rewatch it now, I still have a certain level of uncomfortable vibes. I don't think it's necessarily a movie that holds up. I do think it's one of the best Stephen King adaptations out there, just purely because of its coherency. It's willingness to sort of stay true to the source material to some degree, and the fact that as a horror movie it holds up, and all of these things. But it certainly isn't holding up in comparative. It's got an intro that I despise. That whole la 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 la, all this over the top goddamn choir kids singing over pictures of or sort of slow moving camera over an unnecessarily creepy pet graveyard. Hate that introduction now. There's a lot of cheesy moments for her. I think some of the acting's really bad, and there's all these side stories that don't make any sense. Because another thing that disturbed me as a child, which of course is the nanny, or the housekeeper should I say, who just randomly suffers from debilitating stomach pain, presumably probably stomach cancer that she's not checked out, and it gets to such a pain point that she chooses to hang herself in a really dark scene. Well terrifying and scarring on a youngster's psyche, because it's just so matter of fact how she does it. I couldn't imagine them being in such pain that would be the choice, that would be an easier way out. But when I watch it now, I'm like, it makes no sense. Obviously, from a book perspective, there's a bit more to it, but my god, it makes no sense. Alongside that, there's the flashback story about the son that comes home and how that pans out. There's lots of scenes that are just disturbing from a youngster. And of course, obviously, things involving Gage, and I cannot remember the wife's name. I can't remember her name. It's gone from my head, and I only watched it quite recently, so I don't know why it's gone from my head. But obviously, Gage, the baby, and the wife, and when she comes back, and that final sort of scene of her face dripping and all oozing is really gross. I just think as an adult, that's a great makeup effect, but as a kid, that kind of screwed me up. But the Gage stuff, I don't really remember bothering me too much as a kid, which is weird, right? I'm not entirely sure why. Strangely, I think I watch it now and I'm a little bit more invested in it. I'm a bit more yeah, this fantastic acting and how it's done and all stuff like that. But now I find it more sad than anything else, particularly after he kind of sticks him in the needle and the kid's just oh, no fair, and acting like a kid again. How heartbreaking it must be for as an adult. Really good acting in that sequence. But it never really got me as a kid. Definitely more as an adult. I appreciate it more from a film perspective rather than a horror perspective. It just comes back to Zelda every single time. But as I said, now there's a final scene where she goes to the attic. I don't even know what it is. Is she having a vision? Is she so stressed, tired and all that she's having this vision? But then why is it almost interactive to a degree? I suppose it's not, but the fact that she goes upstairs and Zelda sort of twists her body around and then's like rushes up to like the camera, which I guess is supposed to be the actor's face, and it's all like, she's like a bit Wicked Witch. I'm gonna get you, my pretties. But it's like, I'll break your back like mine. As a kid, that terrified me. Now I think it's bloody stupid, really dumb, and just doesn't work because she's laughing and cackling. And what I don't like about it now as an adult is what it does is it make her seem villainous. And I think she works better as a victim of just a horrifying, debilitating disease. Of course, as a kid, I can't quite marry those two up, but as an adult, that's what scares me. And it's weird, what's really interesting is that those early scenes of Zelda in pain and torture and being suffering, and like what the poor girl is being put upon by her parents, who are nasty as fuck for this behaviour. What she remembers it as a terrifying experience. Me as an adult, because that's how as an adult looking back and remembering it, but she's heartbroken for her sister as well. Me as an adult, I now get that more. I look back and I find it terrifying. Like remembering how my child version felt. But also now I'm just filled with such sadness and sympathy. I think that's a really good marrying. In a better film, like in a film where this was maybe the story was based around, this entire character and arc and this story around Zelda would have been really interesting dealing with that trauma. But because it's kind of jammed randomly in this film about burying pets and people in a cursed Indian burial ground past a pet cemetery, like that's still the focus of this movie. God, when you talk it through or talk as randomly as I'm now, it is a confused mess. It really, really is. But it is still one of the better adaptations. I think it lacks a little fun factor of Stephen King. You know, some of Stephen King's best adaptations are also the ones that are the most fun. But I do think it holds up overall as a good horror film. Just a little bit, not even a little bit, quite incoherent. I think if I watch this fresh now, I probably, like for the first time ever, I probably wouldn't like it as much as I do because I saw it in my childhood. With the incoherency and the lack of like tangible story running through it and the messy sort of side plots. I don't care about it as a kid. I'm just looking for visual and stuff like that on screen. It certainly delivers on that. Obviously, this film has had a fair bit. This franchise has had a fair bit going on. We just had a most recent prequel, not a remake, like a prequel or reimagining that I hated. You can read that review on the site. It's got a sequel with like Edward Furlong in it and stuff like that. That's an intriguing film. It's not on this list, even though it's got moments within it that I also saw as a child and disturbed me. It doesn't. I find it such a cheesy film, and I think back then I did as well. So I'm not getting into it. This is specifically about the original Pet Sematary. And as far as like delivering on the childhood horror side of thing, reflecting on that, it nailed it. Fucking Zelda. What do you reckon? You got any thoughts on this? Do you feel as strongly as I do about that character? Or maybe there's another part of it that really gets you. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It is gratefully appreciated. You can find us over at gbhbl.com, our full website where reviews, news and so much more goes up daily. We're also on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, at GBHBL. Just search for GBHBL and you will find us out there. We also have merchandise on sale. You can access the shop via the website.